Hello and welcome to another episode of Better Than Yesterday. My name is Michael, and as always, I'm joined by my very good friend Daniel, and we are here today to talk about the pandemic of short attention spans in this generation, and even in this age, be it not just people who are our age specifically, but yeah, there's definitely an issue and a problem going around. I see it all over the place, and I see it even in myself of an inability to concentrate and focus on one thing for any extended period of time. And I think if you are honest with yourself, you've definitely seen this before as well. But Dan, to get into
Yeah.
this, man, I wanted to ask, how do you think this came about? Like, what do you think has caused people these days to just have such a short attention span?
Yeah, so to give it a bit of a background, I would say that it started off when with Musically, as we spoke, and also when there was a bit of Vines that was coming in, so it was a bit of shorter content that we started consuming.
Mm,
Then YouTube started coming up with YouTube Shorts, Instagram. I know instead of just having photos, they started adding short video clips that you could watch. That started becoming a way of entertainment, and I personally caught myself scrolling through these things on Instagram, and they were about 30 seconds to 1 minute. So then these longer videos that we used to watch before that on YouTube, the vlog style, started getting a bit out of fashion. I know we still consume it in mostly in a form of podcasting these days, but also
yeah,
when I'm doing podcasts, I would have something else that I'm busy with. Either I'll be washing the dishes,
sure.
or I might be um, washing the car, or walking to work, but not just sitting there and watching it. Although at times I do that. So that's roughly how it came about with the our attention span getting shorter, because we started getting used to consuming this fast
Yeah,
paces of media, and then because of that, it caused us to have a higher dopamine threshold. So meaning that when we would be watching longer content, we would get bored easily, and we were used to that, or we became used to that dopamine rush of just having a short reel that we watch for 30 seconds and then going on to the next one. So getting into this,
no, I couldn't
Michael,
agree more, man.
yeah, how do you think we can we can look at the effects that's caused by having the short attention span? Like, what's the consequences, man?
Sure. Yeah, so what I've noticed there, like even just hanging with my friends,
Yeah.
and this is very interesting. I think the next time you're in a social situation with a group of people that you know, just count how many times people will like pull out their phone, even like while they're talking to you. So I've literally had this with like, guys that I've known for years and I get on with well,
Mm-hmm.
but we'll be having a conversation, about whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
and they will just whip out their phone and start scrolling Instagram or Twitter or whatever it is,
Yeah.
and that becomes part of the conversation. Like you conversating, but then you're also looking at reels together and or looking at
Mm.
like Twitter, whatever they're going through, and people think that this is a bit normal. Maybe that's just
Mm.
like the way that people hang these days. You'll sit in the same room and both look at reels and show each other the funny ones, and maybe it's fun, but I don't know. I've noticed this, and every time I catch myself in a situation like that where that's happening, I'm like,
Mm.
wait, why are we sitting together in the same room, but we're just consuming content,
Yeah.
as opposed to like having mindful conversations
Mm-hmm.
and doing something fun. I just think it's not the best way to spend the time, man. So I've noticed that that's definitely one of the biggest consequences of that is that you know a social interaction with people that you care about, like your mom and dad, like your friends.
Mm.
Maybe it's a new a social situation where you don't know everyone there, but it's a potential place where you can meet new people.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of interacting, people will just pull out their phone and start scrolling through
Sure.
these applications because
Mm.
they need that instant gratification, and the situation around them, like you say, is not providing enough dopamine.
Mm.
Um, you know, we can't allow ourselves to be bored for any period of time. So, if you're standing somewhere and you've got no one to speak to for, yeah, longer than 5 seconds, you're probably going to pull out your phone and start looking through the weather app or whatever it is because you're looking for something to keep yourself busy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's one of the biggest consequences, man, that
Mm.
I've really picked up on is just how it's affected like our ability to interact with each other.
Sure.
And yeah, what I wanted to say is that I don't know if you've noticed this as well, man.
Yeah.
It's not just our generation. So it's definitely a problem for our generation, but it's
Mm.
it's actually the older generation as well. Like
Sure.
even our parents and yeah, like they
Yeah.
they are on these apps as well, and their attention spans are getting affected much the same. I must
Facts.
say I've picked up on that. Even the older generation.
Yeah.
And
No.
one other
True.
consequence that I wanted to mention
Mm.
is that of like reading a book. So you know how
Yeah.
people used to like read the newspaper, or they used to like yeah read a book.
Yeah.
This is how people got their information, and
Mm.
yeah, and I guess things have changed, which is not a bad
Mm.
thing. But people can't even sit and read a book now. That's the thing. I've
Yeah.
so many times I've spoken to my friends like, so do you do any reading? And they're just like, nah, they don't know. They'll literally admit like they don't have the ability to
To
like.
read.
They just say reading is boring. And
Mm.
why is it boring? Because it's not like flash, flooding you with like information all the time. It's just
Mm.
it's like a slow process of you
A slow
taking the time
burner.
to read something, and then yeah, you digest it, and then you get all that good stuff that comes from reading.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's crazy, man. Like I think we've lost our ability to read books, and that is
Mm.
a major loss because you don't, yeah, you're just missing out on all this wisdom that you could be picking up on. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that we still practice that, man.
Yeah. No.
But also the conversations, man. So yeah, these are some critical issues, and yeah, I think it really needs to be addressed, man. So
Mm.
yeah, it's cool that we are chatting about it now.
Sure.
But so in combat of these consequences, what do you think then are perhaps like a couple of ways that maybe something that you've practiced before
Mm.
to actually you know help yourself to get better at having a longer attention span and being able to focus for longer, so that you won't have these negative consequences of getting distracted in conversations and unable to read and so on. What do you think are some solutions to this?
Yeah, so I noticed that it was becoming an issue, especially with my studies, because I would be studying, but then somehow I would lose focus and I'd want to take my phone out and quickly scroll through Instagram or look if a message
Yeah,
like a message didn't come through. So it actually bothered me to just sit there for even like an hour and just read my schoolwork and the content that I was supposed to learn for a test. I would just want to, like, after 15 minutes, look at my phone and see if there wasn't any updates. So it's like you need that notification to give you a bit of a
mm,
rush. But what I started practicing then was to totally delete Instagram, and I wasn't on TikTok back then. And on YouTube, I would consume longer pieces of content, like listen to podcasts. So yeah, that's one
yeah,
solution to start limiting the time you spend on social media. So maybe give yourself like 3 hours of social media a day or 2 hours. And then once you get into this habit, you'll notice that naturally you don't spend as much time on social media. Also, a second option would be then to totally fast from social media. So force yourself to be off of the app, even if it's for a day, where you aren't on Instagram and you aren't on watching YouTube shorts or TikTok content. Or if you're watching TikTok, you try and uh, change the algorithm where when there's longer formats of videos coming up, like 3 minutes or 4 minutes, you fully watch that video, that piece of information
mm,
before you go on to the next. And then like a third solution would be to, when you are like spending time on social media and you catch yourself quickly scrolling through too much different pieces of information, you focus on trying to consume like like a single source of information. So this would either be if you're on YouTube for learning about gardening, you only consume garden content in that specific period of time. So you look at different shorts for gardening or different videos on gardening. So you focus on one topic and then you can
Yeah,
focus on the next, because what I notice is, like, just going back to a consequence is you get information overload. So there's like so much going on in your head, it becomes difficult to comprehend what you're actually learning, because it's so much too
yeah.
fast, and that actually causes
No,
you
that's right, man.
to not be present, like in the moment, like you said, with friends, even with family. Like my uncles would always complain, like they'll say, like, all of us are on our phones, we aren't we supposed to be having a conversation and talking to each other, but we're going through like through Instagram or Facebook. Facebook is usually like the
Sure.
go-to for adults. And then we're supposed to be spending
Yeah,
time together, being present with each other, but we'll spend time in the same room, but we'll be on the phone, so our minds will be somewhere else. But in
that's so
your,
true, man.
yeah, in your life, like, what have you personally applied to combat this attention span thing? I know you've been reading books, but tell us more.
Mm.
Yeah.
No, so it's good stuff, man. I like what you're talking about there.
Mm,
I think much the same, man. I think it's definitely good advice, like you say. Some other things that I've implemented that I think will help, anyone listening or watching this that, yeah, is trying to find a solution to this for themselves or maybe for other people that you care about.
mm,
I think one thing that you can also look into is screen time managing applications. So I know on iPhone, this actually comes built in.
mm.
I'm sure there's something similar on Android. If not, there's also an app called Opal,
Okay.
OPAL, that actually it's basically what it does is limits your time on social media and apps that you choose
Yeah.
to, you can choose the limits.
Mm,
So what I've found is quite helpful is that I've set like a 45-minute limit on Instagram and on YouTube. And then this app Opal also helps me in that during my work hours, 9 to 5,
yeah.
it completely just blocks those apps out. Like I can't actually go on them. If I click on it, it just
Okay.
sends this funny little message actually that says like, whoops, you tried, and like not this time. It's quite cool
Yeah.
actually. So yeah, like, these are quite useful tools because
Mm,
sometimes you'll just instinctually, like you'll be working and you'll be bored. So then you'll pull out your phone, go
yeah.
on, and then it blocks you and you're like, oh, flip. Or then
Mm,
you just put your phone down again and you've got to get back to work. So
yeah.
these are the kind of things that are practical and they're gonna help you out. So definitely look into
Mm,
a managing application for your screen time. I think another thing is, people say they're so addicted to listening to music and they love music, and that's great. And I
mm,
was definitely one of those people and probably still am. But I think something
yeah.
that also kills your attention span is if you are always listening to music. There's never
That's
any
true.
silence in your head.
Mm,
So what I would say is, like, sometimes don't listen to music. It's
yeah.
fine to do it, again, some of the time.
Yeah.
But if you're going to the gym or if you're on your way walking somewhere, people always
Mm,
have their headphones in. But just every now and then mix it up and actually don't listen to anything, and that'll help you to build a
yeah.
bit of a longer attention span. Yeah, so that's an interesting one. And then one other point I wanted to mention is that we should actually call out our friends and our family members on this. So, like you're saying, you've been to
Mm,
family events where you've seen this kind of thing happening, and you've been in situations where you're hanging with friends and you've seen that kind of thing happening. So, we actually need
yeah.
to call each other out on this, and we need to help each other and hold each other accountable, because
Mm,
I think so many people are just unaware of the fact that
sure.
of how bad it's gotten in their own
Mm,
lives. They might think, oh, other people are already bad, like they're already addicted to their phone.
yeah.
But like the reality is that you are probably very addicted to your phone as well, and
Mm,
you probably also have no attention span, and it is unfortunately causing these negative effects, man. So yeah, I think it's a real issue, man, and we really need to take it quite seriously. Something I'm quite passionate about, and yeah, I think there's still ways that I could improve.
mm,
It's hard to not be a consumerist in this world that we live in.
yeah.
But yeah, definitely working on those ways of con combating it, man. And yeah, would love to hear what you guys have to say in the comments down below.
Sure. Yeah, no, it's been an interesting conversation, and Yeah, just to add to like those solutions is we need to force ourselves to be bored sometimes, to sit and do nothing and
Mm,
listen to nothing, because that's where inspiration comes from.
literally.
And I remember back then when we were getting into this like self-development, self-improvement lifestyle, we talked a lot about journaling. And journaling is also a way of channeling your thoughts because you're writing it down on paper,
Mm,
and you're actually not supposed to be listening to music or having any piece of content like any noise around you when you're journaling. You're just sitting there with a book, or it can even be on your phone. You're just sitting there on your phone and writing down what you're thinking. It doesn't have to be journaling about being emotional or sad or anything. You can just write down what comes to mind, or even there's this thing called idea journaling. So you write down ideas that come to mind. This can be entrepreneurial ideas or even just different things that you want to be taking on in your life. And then, like, the final type of journaling you can do is gratitude journaling, journaling about what you're
yeah,
grateful for. So these things help you to then force yourself to be present, and then subconsciously like turn away from trying to always have this 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 like lean towards instant gratification, and getting a bit more into delayed gratification, something that we've also mentioned before on this channel. But it's been an
so good, man.
awesome it's been an awesome conversation, and it's important to look at where we're going as a society, and even mentioning these kind of tools, using like digitalization and using the internet and these various forms of content to even change the way we work with this world, using these tools that are available to limit our time and to practically reduce ourselves just instantly going on Instagram when we feel bored for a bit. So thanks for the conversation, Michael. It's been cool, man.
100%, man. And I think if anyone's made it this far into the video, then you probably are someone who has a bit of a longer attention span than most.
Yeah, no, sure thing. So thanks for sticking around. Like and subscribe, and send this to a friend or a family member that you feel that needs to hear this, who needs to work a bit on their attention span. But yeah, that's it from us here at BTY. Much love. Cheers.
Much love.